All right, all right. Peace and shalom, family. Peace and shalom. What's going on? It's your brother Divine Prospect, Kingdom Harbinger Ministries in the building. Thank you guys for joining us on this Wednesday pop-up session. Just decided to pop up since I have a little bit of time to chat with y'all. It's been very, very hectic 2 weeks for me. Um, and I just want to give you all a quick update and then see if there's any questions or anything you guys want to talk about in the limited space of time that I have before me. Um, so gonna wait a few minutes for y'all to come on in, and as y'all coming on in, I'm gonna go ahead and build on a couple of things. Shout out to Latoris Harrison in the building, ESM, Shalom, that one servant, Cincinnati in the building. Shout out to Ohio. Shout out to my brother Get Wise, Shalom, Sister Santawa, Shalom. They not like us, Shalom. All right, the one servant said, Divine, stay off Clubhouse, yo. Clubhouse is a wild place, man. That's a wild place, man. And my brother right here, he's been there with me. He even seen these rooms and stuff going down and all this other type of stuff. It's been really, really interesting. But it's a much easier platform to get on and share knowledge and information, with the hectic things that's been going on with me. You know what I'm saying? With this, it requires me to have peace and quiet, focus, and nothing else distracting. You know what I'm saying? But we're gonna get into that 1 second. 1 second. Let me just do a little tidying up. Yo, if y'all not on Clubhouse, man, y'all missing out, man. Shout out to my brother, Mr. Jeshuron. Shout out to that one servant. They've been on Clubhouse. They see what's going down, man. You know what I'm saying? Download the Clubhouse app, Apple App Store, Google Play Store, install it, create a username, and follow me, man, at Divine Prospect. And y'all get to see what's going down. Y'all get to really see what's going down. You know what I'm saying? Because that's where another part of this ministry lives, right? It lives on Clubhouse, and I go there to contribute to conversations. I really don't start a lot of rooms on my own, even though people be begging me to do so. I may, when I have some time to do it, it'll be similar to like doing a session online like this, where I need like peace and quiet. I need to be attentive to moderate and stuff like that. However, I get pinged in rooms every day. I get pinged at least 10 rooms. I get pinged in every day, right? So I jump from room to room and contribute where I see fit. You know what I'm saying? Engage where I see fit. You know what I'm saying? Today was kind of crazy talking to this brother called, his name is Ariel, right? And there's certain people, when I get into certain rooms, right, and they see Divine Prospect, oh, they get in, their panties get in a bunch and everything, man. They get all frustrated and they gotta call my name and everything. And I didn't even say nothing to them. I'm just there, just like partaking in the conversation, and they be going crazy. Yes, I know it's Aharon. Yes, Arawan. What's going on, brother? I know, but I'm gonna call you the one servant because people may not know you by that name. Yo, what's going on? Yeah, both my brothers right here. Look, both of these brothers right here. They in them Clubhouse streets, man. They know what time it is. So anyway, he's a Jew by conversion, and the beef that the brother Ariel has with me is that I don't respect the binding to the Midrashim, Talmud, oral tradition, etc. Right? What the sages say, the rabbis say. That doesn't mean it has no value to me. It does have tremendous value. There's a lot of information you can gather from that historically, culturally, etc. But it's not binding for all Jews. And that is the issue that we have. That's the issue when they make it binding. I did a whole lecture on this back in 2018 where I talked about this, right? And they tried to force it to be binding. If you want to adhere to that, that's fine. I have no qualms, no beef. I have no issues. The issue is when people talk to me and say, how dare you have your own holocaust? What you mean, how dare I have my own holocaust? Because historically, that's what Jews have done in the Galut or the diaspora. That's what they've done. What you talking about? The experience that I have here in America via my ancestors is not the same experience that the Jews in Israel who don't look like me have. Two totally different experiences. The Jews in Babylon who contributed to the Gemara and the Talmud and the oral traditions that we find in the Mishnah and together become the Talmud. My ancestors had nothing to do with that. My ancestors had nothing to do with that. So why would I bind myself to something that my ancestors had nothing to do with? I'm not doing that. If you want to do that, that's fine. Right? If you choose to do that, and if you convert and you did, that's fine. That's your prerogative. I have no issues with that. But don't get mad at me because I'm only doing something that has been historically done by Jews or Yahudim in the Galut or the diaspora, which is they take their traditions, their minchagim, they take their traditions, they look at the written Torah, and they fuse together a halakot, which is a way that you walk these things out based on the environment that they live in the diaspora, not in the land, in exile. And we've seen this with a multiplicity of Jews in different regions of the world. This has happened historically. When the Sephardim and Ashkenazim in Europe during the medieval period and afterwards bumped into each other, really afterwards, I would say post-medieval period, bumped into each other, they realized, oh, shoot, y'all got different minchagim than us. Oh, y'all got different halakot than us. Oh, historically, that's what happened. Because this is what happens when you develop your culture in a diaspora outside the land in a different environment. So mines goes back to West and Central Africa and the purported Black Jews that was found there by travelers, by missionaries, by merchants, etc. I go and look to see what they did. And then I take that and I said, okay, if I'm going to reconstruct how to walk out this Torah, it should be leveraged from my ancestors in them. There was already in Africa, before the closing of the Talmud or the finalization of what we call the Orator. The Orator doesn't go back further than Ezra and Nehemiah or Ezra and Nehemiah. It doesn't go back further than that. I had a whole conversation with a conservative rabbi on that. And y'all can see it. So it's right here on YouTube. I had a whole conversation with him on that. So if that's the case, and my ancestors was already in captivity and had nothing to do with that, then why should I bind myself to that? Where's that in Torah? I'm gonna show you the places in Torah where they. So what they say is that Grand Sanhedrin, that Beit Din, that was established in Greco-Roman, keyword Greco-Roman captivity, we should bind ourselves to have the likes of the Pharisees, Sadducees, and some unnamed anonymous scribes, where we have some names and stuff based on the Talmud, right? And then we have the schools of Hillel and Shammai, right? We have all of that going on. That's a result of the Greco-Roman captivity. That does not go back to the the late Bronze Age, when Moshe received his revelation from the Most High. So I'm not going to bind myself to that. And you cannot force me to bind myself to that. And what Jews, I say converted Black Jews in our community, and I say Black Jews because they think, oh, there's no color line. You think once you convert to be a Jew, there's no color line? You ask that rabbi, hey, let me take your daughter's hand in marriage, see what he say. You ask that Ashkenazim rabbi, hey, I like your daughter, let me take her in marriage. And you black as tar, see what he say. Hey, I'm just saying. All right. Anyway, let me move forward. Let me move forward from that. Unless you want me to go back to it, I'll go back to it and talk my stuff, man. But yo, first thing I want to say is thank you to everybody who's been very supportive. Let me give you a quick update. So right now I'm in the process of getting another work contract, and I'm also in the process of moving. Right. Then at the same time, my children are graduating from school, and they'll be home with me as well. So there's a lot of stuff going on that has taken me away from doing a lot of my Freestyle Fridays live stream. Plus, I've been on work contracts out of town, which I'm still on work contracts. I just work. You know what I'm saying? Except for the Shabbat. So a lot of that has been pretty distraction, but necessary given, the nature of me moving and transitioning and a lot of stuff going on. So I'm trying to take care of matters at home first. And once I get settled with that, then I can transition. You got to remember, I got a large family, right? So I have kids under 18 that live in my household with 2 adults, right? And then at the same time, I work 3 jobs. See, 2 jobs now. Plus I have the ministry, like with this, right? And the stuff that's done in the background. So it's not like I just show up on YouTube and just talk and then turn off YouTube and I go back to my regular life. No, this is a real ministry, right? Working with real people, with real problems, with real needs and real community needs. Like this is real. And then I teach outside of this. So on Patreon, we still have our classes. If you have not joined our classes, this is the time. Matter of fact, just to remind y'all why you need to get in class, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go play this. The Bible is arguably the most enigmatic book of all time. Its depth and richness of narrative, songs, poetry, law, prophecy, and eschatology is unrivaled in its class. This text confounded many for centuries. Attributed to the divine inspiration of the Most High Yah, only a select few were privileged to be able to unravel the mysteries that lie beneath. Today, there are tons of academic gatekeepers who have been able to unlock this coded script using a variety of techniques mostly unknown to laymen. However, today this is no longer the case. Thankfully, DivineProspect has spent 15 years playing the spook who sat by the door to gather intel on how to best approach the text and get the most objective understanding possible. He is making these techniques available to the general public in the upcoming KHM Holistic Research Paradigm for Bible study classes. For the first time, be able to read the text the way it was intended by the author to his immediate audience. Once you've been able to successfully decipher the scripture, you will then learn how to map it to modern times and yield a harvest of actual results. Sign up today by going to www.patreon.com/DivineProspect and join the $50 tier to reserve your spot. Seats are extremely limited, so take advantage of this opportunity before it's too late. Peace and shalom. Peace and shalom. So, if you're not in class, you need to get in class, right? We just finished the first section of our classes of the course. There has been a test, an exam that was generated that I place on Patreon. So those of you who are in the class or sign up for the class, go to Patreon and you'll see the test of the exam. I'm also going to share a link where you could download it as well. Some people saying they're having problems downloading the attachments, but I actually downloaded it myself. And I see that when you click on the attachment, it looks like nothing happens, but it's actually downloading in the background to your phone or to your computer. So you got to go check the downloads folder in your computer or the downloads folder on your phone, and you'll be able to find all the attachments that's there. However, I think some people are more familiar with like Google Drive links. So I'll place a Google Drive link there as well that you can click on and download the test and the materials as well. All right. So the first part of this test deals with the grammatical lexical analysis. We have a 7-step inductive research methodology. So that way we can attack any passage of scripture and be able to render an understanding and interpretation, right? Through objective means, right? So the first stage of that is the grammatical lexical analysis. That's one of 7 approaches that we're teaching in these classes so you can understand the text in a way that you've never seen it or never understood it before, okay? So we posted our first exam. Go to the post with the exam, download, you can print it out, fill it out, right? And then if you have the means to scan it and email it, please do. If you don't have the means to do that, then what I'll do is I'll create an online form and you can just fill it out online, like typing instead, right? So that may be helpful for people who may not be as tech savvy and they can't do it the old fashioned way. Like I really want the papers in front of me so I could grade them. But I know in 2024, everything is electronic, right? So I'll create an online form as well. But in the interim, just use what you have with what I'm sharing now to do the test, right? You're given all the materials. You have everything you need. It's an open book, but it also requires you to put some thought behind your answers, right? And this is very important. So this is going to cover everything that we actually went through on the exam, okay? So I appreciate everybody that signed up for the test. Anybody that is not part of the class, you're not going to get access to the test. So you might as well sign up for the classes and you can go back and you can check out all the videos so far. There's one introductory class, and then there's 3 classes on the grammatical lexical analysis approach, and then there's the exam. And then from there, we're going to the contextual analysis. So we went to the grammatical lexical. Next is the contextual analysis. And we're going to see how to approach the text from a contextual perspective in order to derive meaning from whatever passages that we come across. Okay. So again, this is invaluable, right, for addressing anything in scripture yourself. Like you're being empowered to do something that people go to school for and have to pay thousands of dollars in tuition to get, that we're only charging $50 a month for this class, right? So with that being said, again, once the test is done next week, we're going to try to I'm gonna grade all the exams, make sure everybody's able to perform it either online or the old-fashioned way, which is actually printing it out, filling it out and emailing it back. And then once that's done, I'm gonna do the grading. I'm gonna allow people an opportunity to speak about their answers, their insight, etc. And then we're gonna transition to the second step, which is the contextual analysis, right? And again, this approach is very objective. You can have whatever opinion you want, whatever doctrine you want, whatever the case may be. All I'm simply doing is showing you what the experts do in order to derive meaning from the text and providing those steps to you in a condensed format, which is not going to require you to do 4 to 8 years of college, right? So with these techniques, you'll be more adept at deciphering the text and deriving the meaning that you need to enhance your character and to put you on that straight path to the Most High Yah. Hallelujah. All right. So that's very important. We'll make sure I get that out. So updates in regards to my personal life, updates in regards to the Patreon and the classes that we have going on. Also, I released 4 books. One of those books I actually made available to the general public, and that one is dealing with textual criticism. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share the Patreon so you can see the sources that I have available on there, to encourage everybody here who's watching should be on Patreon. You should be on Patreon, and you should sign up for at least a $10 tier to get access to all the information that we release on it, books and videos, courses, everything, right? We have classes. You want to learn Ugaritic, we can give you Ugaritic. You want to learn Syriac, we give you Syriac, Hebrew, Aramaic, Greek. We have all of that. Those classes are all available on there. Then I have my own classes where I share some of that information on those classes, right? And then we also have like the Bible Lands class, right? Which is a class in the land of Israel that's being conducted by scholars, right? We have that. We have all of these books, all of these articles that I have, my own videos that I have on there that I don't share anywhere else on YouTube, right? Tons. I'm talking about over almost 1,100 posts that's on there with all of this information. It is a repository hub for tons of data that you would need to know. We have all our primary resources I share in there: Black Jews in Western Central Africa and the migration from Israel into Africa to Western Central Africa to the Americas. All of that is posted on there. I even got scholarly articles that speak about this, right? Such as Janice Levy and her book Beyond the Saharan Cloak. Her article Beyond the Saharan Cloak, right? Where she speaks about this, right? I have tons of those resources on there. And again, if you're not signed up, you are definitely missing out, right? So everybody that is signed up, thank you for your support. I appreciate it. And again, I always keep this set up. I always have this available. I always dump information, articles, books, resources, videos, everything there so you could access it, right, at any given time. All right. So I'm going to go and share this real quick. Okay. So here's some of the books right here. I just uploaded this one today. This is Judah and the Judeans in the Achaemenid period and negotiating identity in an international context. So this is based on a international colloquium that was set up, or like a conference that was set up to speak about the status of Judah and the Judeans in exilic and post-exilic periods, because we have archives of Astrakhan, which is what you see here, pottery shard that has writings on it, that detail how these Jews lived in Persian captivity. I also have books of that, about that, on the Patreon as well. So I decided to upload that for those who are interested in the primary sources and see what the scholars say about it. So you can learn about that 70 years in captivity in Babylon, and the years in captivity outside the Bible in regards to the Persian period before we get to the Greco-Roman period, right? It's good to know that history so you understand the intertestamental period, right? And you can make those associations and connections, right? Now, also, this book right here is available for anybody who's signed up on Patreon. It's called Textual Criticism of the Bible by Amy Anderson and Wendy Witter. It's part of the Alexa Method series, and it's, I think, like maybe 4 or 5 books in the series or whatnot. I have 3 of them behind me over there. But this is good to introduce you to textual criticism. You know, you'll hear me mention this term all the time on this channel. When I deep dive into text and stuff like that, I always mention textual criticism. Also, if you follow me on Clubhouse, you'll hear me mention it a lot as well. If you want to know the basics of what that is, this book right here is going to introduce you to it. And this is one of the starter books that I recommend anybody read if you really want to get into this particular subject matter. All right. So good book to pick up and read. It does have some scholarly depth, but it's not to the point where it advances colloquial language of the layman and not allowing you to access what is being said, right? So it's very accessible, and this is a very important tool to have in your arsenal or inventory of books, right, or your library, right? Then I have this one right here. Now, I've shared this before. I have those books, again, also behind me. Paul Through Mediterranean Eyes, Cultural Studies, and First Corinthians. And I always stress to you that cultural studies is going to be the defining factor or the line of demarcation in understanding the scriptures. If you don't understand the culture, then you don't understand anything else, right? So when we go through our 7-step inductive research methodology, it also pulls on this understanding of culture as well. Like every aspect of it is going to show you, give you insight into the culture, because the culture is the root of everything that you see on the surface, which is those pages in which the text is written on. All right. So this one's going to give it to you from the New Testament perspective, which is heavily needed, right? In First Corinthians and Paul. And then the other one here is the one Jesus Through Middle Eastern Eyes. So don't get thrown away by the images they use, right, in the term Middle East and all of that. But just focus on the cultural element of it. And this is what this book showcases, right? And this is why I'm sharing it. And so I'm telling you to get it in your repertoire, because it is very valuable in understanding the text. And if you want to understand a lot of things that I share and say on here, you must understand the culture of the Jews during the 1st century CE period. And my pedigree goes back to the early quote unquote Jewish Christians. And this is what's termed by academia, or the Ebionites and Nazarenes. And they were called heretics by church fathers, right? Not all of them, but most church fathers deemed them as heretics, right? Because they rejected things such as the virgin birth. Some of them repudiated Paul, right? Some of them only held to the Gospel of Matthew, etc., right? So when you understand those groups, and those were the first Christians because they were Jews who accepted the Messiah, like we see in Acts chapter 21, the ones that was hanging out with James in Jerusalem. And James was the OG, not Peter. James was the OG in Jerusalem, right? And he had a bunch of Jews with him who held to Torah and still subscribed to Yeshua as the Messiah. Yes, you can do that. And when you look at historically, I also had a book that I shared called Nazarene Christianity, and you'll see historically there was no room for a middle group. Either a Jew or a Christian, right? You pick a side. And when you have the middle ground, which is where the real truth is at, both sides attack the middle group and get them up out of here. And that's exactly what it did. They either got persecuted out, excommunicated out, killed out, murdered out, right? And all converted out. And there's no more middle group because of that, right? I'm here to reconstruct that middle group and put it in 2024, because that's the pedigree that I would associate with in regards to my lineage would be Jews who would have accepted Yeshua. Now, if the Jews of my ancestors weren't there in the land when that occurred, if they understood the role of Yeshua and him being a Nabi and what he came to do for Israel, right, they would accept him. Not the Christianity that missionaries brought into West and Central Africa. Even amongst the peoples who they call Jews, they still brought them Christianity, right? That's not what our people would have natively accepted. That's something that was pushed onto them, that developed when you had Goyim or Gentiles coming in and reconverting the doctrine, reconverting the movement, usurping the movement, right? If Jews were responsible for teaching, sharing the information about Yeshua, then that's who we should go to for that information. That pedigree needs to be alive somewhere that we can go to, not all of these Gentiles. Not saying that Gentiles don't have good understanding, good insight, but they're not the originators. So we need to go to the originators. Who are the originators? The Jews who accepted Yeshua, which would be almost all your apostles are Jews who accepted Yeshua. All his disciples turned apostles, and they went out and they brought that message. They were eyewitnesses. They were Jews who kept the law, and they understood Yeshua's message, especially after he passed and the Ruach came upon him to reveal these things. Why am I going to any other gatekeeper for that information? Today, we have no choice because gatekeepers have the information about the historical Yeshua and the historical Jews who accepted Yeshua, and most of us are not privy to that, right? So I try to give you reference material that you can go to that sort of revives that, right? So that right there is in a nutshell what I try to share with people. So I always have a distinct perspective when I provide that information, okay? All right. So I'm gonna close this out. Let's get back to here. Let me see if there's any questions. Give a couple more shout outs. Let's see who else we got up in here. All right. So shout out to my brother Yaramya Ban Yasharala. Shalom. Let's see. Believers of the report, Aran Jeshurun, Shalom. Aishu Code, Shalom. Kaya Houston, Shalom. Solomon Israel, Shalom. Shalom Divine. Why only 5 likes for my brother? Let's get the algorithm to go then. You know why, man? I realize because this is the unpopular truth, right? And sometimes, people bump into this channel and they watch this information and they're looking for some feel-good religious message or something to coincide with what they already believed or something that they already are adamantly against, not something that's going to inspire them to critically think about everything, right? And that's what we bring to the table. Everybody that's here, if you're enjoying the content, hit the thumbs up, right? If you like the content, if you don't, then you don't. I can't force you to hit the thumbs up. It's free. It don't cost you nothing. But this way, it makes this content available to other people so they can make their own decision and use their own judgment to decide whether or not the information that's coming forth is fruitful, engaging, empowering, edifying, equipping, and educating, right? Let them make their decision, right? So I appreciate that, my brother Solomon Israel. Shout out to you as well. Shalom to Shadola. Shalom, Simply Saved. Shalom, Yosef Donald. Shalom, King Z. Shalom, Mikey Ben Israel. Shalom. You asked me a question. You said, how do you feel about young brothers going to become rabbis in the Israelite community? More power to them. I'm not against that. If that's what they want to do, that's what they want to do. If that's the path they're on, then I encourage them. If they need any help from me, I'm willing to provide it. No problem. But just don't say that is the standard path that one has to take in order to teach in this community. I disagree with that. I totally disagree with that. Right. But again, if young brothers want to do that, that's fine. I have no issue with that. I have no qualms with that. Only issue I have is when they make it an issue with me. Then I get pushback. Other than that, do your thing. If that's the path that you need to understand Yah and to teach, more power to you. I'm here to support you. I'm your brother. I'm here to support you. All right. Shout out to Jermaine 7072. Shalom. My brother Hakodesh Management in the building. Shalom. Healing Rain. Shalom. Feed the Spirit. Shalom. John Dalton. Shalom. Apothecary Custom. Shalom. Yeah, so if you need help, you said you need like $12. Yeah, so email us at kingdomharbinger@gmail.com so we have a record of this. We'd be more than happy to send you the $12 that you need to make it home, but you have to email us. All right, email us. Even if it's just your Cash App, right? Email us and I'll definitely make sure that's given to you. Oh, I see it right here. All right. So we'll try to get that to you, my brother. Okay. We'll do our best to help you out with that. All right. Shout out to Ernest Higgs. Shalom. Let's see. Oh, I didn't know that, Apothecary. I did not know that. I had no clue about that. But yeah, my regulars or my usuals are going to watch the chat better than me. So that's something I'm probably not aware of. But if that's the case, if you're sincere, we'll give you the $12, brother. But if you keep having that story, then the next thing I'm going to recommend you do is hit that link in the description to set up a consultation and let's have a conversation to see what's going on and how you can help yourself going forward. Okay. That's how we do it around here. All right. Shout out to Scott Garrett Haley. Shalom. Thank you for sharing that information with him. And that's for anybody else that may need some help if we can help. All right. Shalom to my brother Ya'alam Ben Yisrael. Shalom, King. HGAK in the building. What's going on, man? Thank you for the donation, brother. I truly appreciate that. Israel Young Lion, shalom. Ramal Yaku, shalom. Did I just start about 30 minutes ago? Yes. And I'm going to be another 20 minutes and then I'm out. So I'm not going to be on here too long because my children will be here home from school. Tomorrow's their graduation. So out of my kids, I have 5 kids. 1 will be working this summer. 2 would be in summer camp. And 2 would be in and I guess you call it daycare, whatever the case may be, right? So after this week and we transition into next week, I'll be moving mid-June. So after mid-June, I should be more stable with everything going on in my household, and I should be more regular in regards to the Freestyle Fridays and everything else. You will see some irregularities and infrequencies in regards to me going live and stuff like that because I got to get in when I fit in, right? While things are busy for me over the next 3 weeks. Please keep me in your prayers. If you do want to help and support, all the means to support me personally, right? And the ministry is listed there in the description below, and everything will be appreciated. And again, when people come in here asking for help, whatever is given to us from you guys, we give out to them as well, right? However, people are scamming us. We hope the first time, maybe the second time, but then after that, you need a consultation. We need to sit down, figure out what's going on so you can help yourself. Okay, so you don't have a bad name in the community. All right. Shout out to my brother Yaakov, shalom. Dale H, shalom. Dwayne E Butler, shalom. I am Zeus. Okay, let me see. How can I speak to you one-on-one for like 15 minutes? I want your opinion on a few scripts. All right. So I'm going to leave this to the audience, right? So family, if you want me to have a conversation with the brother, hit 1. If you want me to move on with the show and do the random Q&As in the chat, hit 2. If you want me to have a conversation with, hit 1. Random chats, hit 2. Outside of this live stream, I am Zeus. If you want to have a conversation, you can definitely click on the link below that says book a consultation, right? Click that link, schedule a date and time, and we can have a one-on-one offline. All right. All right. The channels with less views have the truth and the most motion from the most highs. Yeah, I agree. I agree. This type of information is not popular in 2024. I'm not on no bandwagon. I told you they don't invite me to the parties no more. I don't get invited to the cookouts, to the parties, to the picnic, to the events. I pay my own money to come out and support people who know me, who could invite me to an event in my hometown. They don't do that no more. I don't get no, hey Divine, do you want to do this? Hey Divine, you want to do that? There's a few engagements that people reach out to me for, right? But for the most part, I'm talking about the people who y'all know in the community who used to be cool with me. They don't invite me to the picnic no more. And I think it's because there's things that I say that's just objective truth. And I provide my sources, my methodology, and how I got to that point. And I just think that this disrupts the dogma in the community. You know what I'm saying? It's not my intention to undermine anybody else's ministry, right? But if I'm here and this is my ministry called out to teach people how to objectively ascertain truth for themselves, right? You can't get mad at that ministry. You know, I know some leaders in the community that tell people don't watch DivineProspect, but I don't tell nobody to leave where they're at. I just equip them with additional tools and words of encouragement to continue on wherever path they are on. The brother asked me, how do you feel about young brothers wanting to be rabbis? Cool, I'm with that. I'm not against that. Hey, if I can help you with that, fine. That's what I say. But then I have people that say, don't watch DivineProspect, don't listen to DivineProspect. Okay, cool. Cool. It's all right. Listen, the real ones are here for it. And I got Yah behind my back. He put me here. Nobody else put me here. There was no rabbi, no more, no leader. Nobody put me here but the Most High. Nobody. And I prayed for a leader. I prayed to be under somebody when I came into this truth. I prayed for all of that. Why? Because I didn't want this burden on myself. I just wanted wisdom to know how to navigate this thing and contribute to our community to make it better. That's all I wanted to do. And Yah put me here. And I fight with him all the time about having this position. Right. But I've learned, just sit still and let him be Yah and do what he asked me to do. And he does his part. And like I was telling somebody the other day, giving them, in some encouragement, when we pray, our prayer is an appeal to a higher authority to intervene into a trivial matter with the lesser inferior person, individual, client, whatever. That is what our prayers are. Our prayer is to say, Yah, this is what I need. Please provide the timing and opportunity, and I'll put forth the effort. That's how it works. If you're not putting forth no effort, then you're wasting your prayers. Yah is only providing the timing and the opportunity, like we see in Ecclesiastes chapter 3. There's a time and he's providing the time and the opportunity for the breakthrough to occur, but you must first press. The difference is he has a bird's eye view, so he can see everything in front of you, and you can't. But that's why you trust in him. You put your trust in him. And it's crazy because I was on Clubhouse, what was it, yesterday, and I was having a conversation with a brother called Golden Swords, right? And he tried to use Psalm 146:3, where David said, put no trust in the Son of Man or in princes. And it says why you don't put no trust in them or no salvation in them, because they perish. They're feeble, they perish, and their plans go with them. And he tried to take that and say, but here in Book of Acts, it says we could put our trust in our salvation in the Messiah. And I'm like, these things are diametrically opposed. They're not even talking about the same thing. Matter of fact, you're not even including context with Psalm 146. He says, what? I don't have to appeal to context. That's all semantics. And that's why he needs to get into class too. Right. But yeah, if y'all want me to do it, just let me know. I got about 15 minutes and we can have that conversation. All right. And I can bring the brother in. Oh yeah, Hakodesh, I'm interested. Right. So say less, brother. Whatever you need from me, just let me know. I read over some of it. I saw the synopsis. Hey, whatever you need me to do, let me know. Right. I can act. I can contribute to the script, the screenplay. Right. I can help. Just tell me how I can help out. I can advertise, whatever you need me to do. I'm more than willing to do that because I want that thing to get up off the ground, right? So just let me know, my brother, and I got you. All right. All right. Yeah. So you know what, Get Wise? That's an excellent question, my brother. I did a lecture on this, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share that lecture with you. Let me find it first. All right. Give me 1 second. You might have seen it before. But I answer that question in this lecture. Okay, I'm gonna drop it in the chat. Right here. Here we go. So it's right there, okay? Yeah, so Ramal Yahoo, if you're interested in that, my wife does that. So just email me at kingdomharbinger@gmail.com and I'll definitely put you on to that. Because she makes all of that. Okay. So just let me know. All right. Thank you, my brother Dale H, for the donation. Truly appreciate that, man. Shout out to you in Cali. I'll be out there again soon. My brother Ya'alam Ben Yisrael. I'm coming to HEA's gathering in June. So I will see you there. Thank you for the donation, my brother. I appreciate that. All right. All right, let me see. We got some 1, 2, 1, 1 and 2, 2, 2, 1, 1. He says don't matter either way. Yeah, Yirmiyahu, Dawi Ben Yochanan. It was cool. It was last minute. A lot of people couldn't make it, right? Especially in Akron, if they're like in Cleveland or somewhere else like that, or even further southwest and like Columbus or Cincinnati, they definitely wouldn't have been able to make it. It's hours and hours away. So only one brother showed up, right? Shout out to the brother that showed up. My brother Yeshua showed up. I posted a picture of it on Instagram. But yeah, me and him had a great conversation. And that's the thing. If I'm in town, you know, the only reason why it's last minute because my job doesn't tell me like a week, 2 weeks, a month in advance. Like I learn maybe a few days prior. So that's when I share it. You know, so it's unfortunate. But the good thing is if I'm physically there, I'm looking to not only meet people that support the ministry, right? That's in the truth, but also connect them with each other. Right. And that's another thing what our chapter launches did is like bring people together in the same city and build fruitful connections. Right. So I thought it was great. And I enjoyed, you know, having that build one-on-one with the brother. Again, I don't know what city I'm gonna be in next week. Next week, I'm gonna be in another random city. I don't know what it is. Right. When I find out, I think I find out by Sunday. I'll let y'all know, and I'll just post it in the community tab. Make sure you're watching the community tab, and I'm more than happy to look forward to those of you who are able to come out. All right. All right. Yes, it is, sis. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. All right. Now, performance acceptable faith, I knew nothing about that. What is that about? I knew nothing about that. Nothing about that. Hey, you got to email that to me, kingdomharbinger@gmail.com. Please give me those details. If there's a video of it, please share the video and the time marker. I would love to see that, right? Because, and again, I won't have to speak directly about the congregation. I don't need to drop names, something like that, but I could speak about what they spoke about, right? So if you don't mind share with me, man, I appreciate that, right? Thank you, my brother Yim Yahoo, as well. Again, you are a very good brother that I love having a dialogue with. Very informative, very knowledgeable, and humble. You know what I'm saying? And just like we all need to be humble. Be humble. Sit down. Be humble. We all need that. You know what I'm saying? And iron sharpens iron. And thank you for being here, my brother. All right. Um, yeah, I agree with my brother Ramal Yahoo. I agree. And again, I didn't ask to be here. See, those other brothers, they clamoring to be there. They want the big titles and the big names, and they want to show off their phylacteries and pray in the open and teach all these grand sermons and messages. Yo, I'm not in it for that. I never asked to do any of that. When I was a Christian, I was doing all of that. When I came into the truth, I didn't want nothing to do with that. I'm only here to serve. That's why I'm here. I'm not here for all that extra stuff. But if they want it, fine, they can have it. I don't care. They can have it. And that's no problem. I'm not here to take nobody's shine. I'm not here to remove nobody out of power, position, leadership. I'm not here to condemn nobody. You don't see me do none of that. I just teach the truth, and that's what it is. All right. Yo, Dale, it's crazy that you asking that. Man, yes, Sharon, was you in that room yesterday when I was talking to Golden Swords? So Dale, I actually had this conversation in depth in a room yesterday in Clubhouse. Hey, if you're not on Clubhouse, download the Clubhouse app on the Google Play Store, the Apple App Store, and let's get it cracking, man. Because I be having all the spur of the moment conversations on there, and stuff like this get discussed. So pretty much the brother wanted my position on the virgin birth, and I said to him, in order for you to subscribe for virgin birth, you need the original sin doctrine that was popularized by St. Augustine. He didn't know that St. Augustine popularized the doctrine of original sin, and it was to justify paedobaptism, baptizing babies. He's looking at the scripture where it says him and his whole household was baptized, so he had to justify why. Oh, babies are born in sin, born with sin. Why? Because the parents, when they have these lustful desires towards one another, they're actually committing an act of sin to bring forth a child. Now, how wild is that? But anyway, so I said, look, show me original sin in the Tanakh. Show it to me. He can't show it anymore. He said, oh, well, Adam was cursed. Show me Genesis chapter 3 where it says Adam was cursed. Show me Genesis chapter 3 where it says Eve was cursed. There's no original sin. Stop that. Then I asked him, when babies die, where did they go? Because he says, well, sin is you being separated from God. And I'm like, okay, I got it. He said, he made one good point. He says, since man got put out the garden, man has created religion to get back to God. And I agree with that. Matter of fact, my lecture that I have coming up, the one about divine, divine patronage, right? That I have coming up, explicating what calling on the name of the Lord means in the Bible. Man has been trying to get back to Yah's presence, protection, and provisions ever since he was put out the garden. Hence why you see the situation when Cain and Abel, which was to invoke the favor of the deity so they can get some of that essence back. So I told him, show me where human beings are born with sin. In sin. This is what he said. Show it to me. Where we gonna go? I said, yo, you're probably gonna go to Psalm 51 and 5. That's the only place you can go in the Tanakh that people purport. That's what it says, but that's not what it says in context. Doesn't say that. Additionally, they go to Romans chapter 5 and 12 and say, oh, Jesus can't be born with a father because Adam passes down sin through his sperm. That's crazy. Yo, He passes sin down with the sperm. That's crazy. And I brought him to Jeremiah chapter 1 and 5. I said, yo, the Most High said to Jeremiah, before I formed you in your mother's womb, I knew you. Before you was born, I consecrated you. I set you apart. So Yah's like making the baby, right? He's like, all right, you need some of these ingredients. Let me go do meiosis, do separation of the cells and all that. Okay, yeah. All right, let me throw some sin in there. Let me sprinkle some sin in there, like Salt Babe. He sprinkled some sin in that and said, all right, put it in the oven, let it bake for 9 months, and then let's produce a child that's born in sin. If the child's born in sin and with sin, it's not innocent. But then he said babies are innocent. It makes absolutely no sense. If you want me to speak further on this, just let me know, man. I'll just do a separate session on that, and we can go right into that, all right? All right, let me go down a little further. Let me see what's going on. Kanyiso, Masiza, shalom to you as well, my brother. I haven't been recently. I was in Oklahoma City in 2015. That's the last time I've been in that area. But again, my job sends me all over the U.S., so I could be there next week. I have no clue. But whenever I do get there, my brother, I will definitely make it public, and I would love to see you. All right. All right. Oh, you are? Yo, Yim Yahoo, man. Why didn't you not reach out to me, brother? I was willing to go to Cleveland as well to meet brothers, right? It would have been a pleasure to meet you, my brother. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I should be back there soon. There's still some work out there that I know my job may send me back out there to do. So I look forward to seeing you. Yo, next time I'm in Akron, if I post it, my brother, you have to hit me up. My phone number is in the description below that you can reach out to the ministry line. The emails in the description below, social media. You can reach out to me all those platforms and let me know that you're in that city, and I'll make sure I call you behind out so we can meet up. Ain't no excuse. If I'm in the city, I'm in the city. And you let me know if there's a time that's better for you, right? Or anybody, when I'm in your city, just let me know. Give me the suggestions. Tell me where to go, right? Let me know. I'll make it happen because I want to accommodate the people. See, this is the difference between me and everybody else, right? I'm in it with the people. Like, you can see me, you can go and talk to me, you can engage me. Like, I'm there. I'm in the thick of it, man. I don't have to do that, but I choose to do that. Why? Because I'm no better than nobody else. I'm not. I'm here to share what Yah's given me to everybody else so everybody else can benefit, right? All these other leaders and stuff, I don't be seeing them in these streets, man. I don't see them. I don't be seeing them. I'm just saying, I don't see them. You know what I'm saying? Thank you, Yashar Napash, for the donation, my brother. I appreciate that. Kol Kavod, shalom to you as well. Let me see. Damon Williamson, shalom king, what's going on? Let's see. Yes, sis. Definitely. Make it early July. So if it's gonna be July, I don't want to be on July 4th weekend. So it'll probably be like maybe the last week of June or the week after in July. So just keep me updated on that, on like the prices and so forth. And let me know. We'll make it happen, sis. I appreciate you. Right. Anytime, Dale, no problem, man. Ramal Yahoo says, well, Ramal Yahoo, I only have about 13 minutes, so I really can't cook like that yet. But yeah, I'll be more than happy to do that in a future session if you'd like me to. All right. Hey, shalom, simply saved, peace and shalom, blessings to you, my brother. Where's my next speaking engagement? I don't know. I had one and it was canceled. That was gonna be in Norristown, Pennsylvania. That one was canceled due to a death. So they wasn't able to follow through with the booking because of that. The next speaking, I have 2 speaking engagements at the end of the year, like in the fall sometime. I also have 4 requests for weddings, but obviously I can't invite you to somebody's wedding. That 4 requests for weddings. I have 1 request for a coming of age ceremony or rites of passage. But I don't have any real speaking. The next speaking engagement is going to be my next lecture. And I'm going to do this in a theater, right? Bring sights and sound to y'all with my presentation. So this one is going to be here in Atlanta. And this one is Divine Patronage, explicating what calling on the name of the Lord means in the Bible. That is my next lecture that I'm doing publicly. I will definitely give you a month's notice before I do it. I plan to do it sometime in probably like late July, early August. And then we also have our Houston chapter launch that we're doing as well before the summer is over. And then we're trying to make it to Toronto as well before the year is out, right? But yeah, so Ramal Yahoo, yo, this is what I want you to do, my brother. I want you to email me. Email me at kingdomharbinger@gmail.com. Right. I used to do the Hebrew classes back in 2018. I did Hebrew classes. I did, I think, 4 sessions of those. Right now, I rolled over that Hebrew classes into this KHM holistic research paradigm for Bible study classes. So we do go into some Hebrew in this as well. We provide you grammar books, give you make references to grammar, syntax, and stuff like that, morphology, and all of that. So we still discuss that in this class as well. So if you want to learn some Hebrew, you'll be able to get some in these classes. Remember, they're not a dedicated Hebrew class, but Hebrew is going to be involved in the entire process of the course, right? So definitely sign up for the class, but shoot me an email. I'm going to gift you real quick. And then if you like what I gift you in regards to the Hebrew stuff that you want to learn, my brother, then let me know and we can move further from there. Okay. Shout out to Raphael. Shalom King. What's going on? When was the last time you had to change your viewpoint based on new information theologically? What was the original point? What changed your perspective? Wow, that's a great question. Again, that individual that asked for the 15 minutes, I don't see them no more. I don't know if they're here. Thank you, my brother. Please do that. I'm gonna hook you up. All right. So that's a great question. So since that brother that asked for the 15 minutes one-on-one is not here, if he does not want to do it live, that's fine. Hopefully he's clicking the link in the description below so you can set up a consultation and we can have that comment. Oh, I am Zeus. Okay, you are here. All right. Let me address this question real quick. I'm gonna share the link with you and then I gotta jump off. Let me see. Let me drop this here. Okay, that's for you, brother. Let me check something real quick. All right. So what was the last time you had to change? Man, it was so many times I had to change. Um, man, I don't even know where to start with that question. So many things, man. I would say, hey, okay, I'll say this, right? When I was first an Israelite, right, I subscribed to using Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 68 to prove our identity as Israelites and the curses of Deuteronomy chapter 28. And then I realized there's no need to do that anymore. And then I realized some of that is being taken out of context. And because of such, I've abandoned using Deuteronomy chapter 28 to prove that we're Israel. So I don't do that anymore, right? So that would be one thing that had to change theologically because that's central to most Hebrew Israelite groups, right? It's Deuteronomy chapter 28, the curses, and Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 68 in the slave ships. So I've abandoned that. That is not my perspective wholly anymore. WHOLLY. But I've also did an update on my last live stream where I talked about that. So you can see what my insight is at on that. And I've shifted my perspective to deal with the historical, tangible, primary evidence that we have to showcase Black Jews in West Central Africa being mingled in the Ma'afa and making their way over here in the Americas. All right. So that's one perspective. Another one would be the original sin doctrine. When I was a Christian, I believed that. When I was an Israelite in the first year, so I believed that. Then I abandoned that when I did further research because I knew St. Augustine actually put this out in the front, but I never challenged the dogma. I did, and then I abandoned it. We are not born in sin. We are not born with sin. We're born in a world that's corrupted by sin because when Adam was put out the garden, man no longer had the presence, the provision, and the protection of the deity. They no longer lived in a land or in a garden or in an area where the earth would yield its fruit without effort for man to eat. Man was able to walk around with any issues. And then now he's put out the garden. And what happens? He doesn't have any of that anymore. It's cold. It gets dark. There's wild animals out there. The earth is going to produce thistles and thorns and resistance to you tilling it to get food, right? Some people's going to get more than you. So envy, jealousy, hatred, all of these lower emotions start to now rise up and we create a fallen, depraved world. And that is why man constantly tries to invoke the deity so he can receive an element of that peace and get his protection, his provision, and his presence and the little bit that he can while we're in this fallen world, right? So when I do my lecture, we're going to talk about it in more detail. But again, I had to challenge that. And I say there's no original sin. That doctrine is fallacious. It's been even challenged by people in academia. I've shared those sources on Patreon, right? And this is why I disagree with it, right? Oh, I didn't see that, Yakal Abad. So I've addressed that before. This is one of those random passages that just find its way in a text with no context, right? And typically when you see that, that means it's a later interpolation, which is fine, right? However, a lot of this is addressing customs that was done in the land. So if you go into Canaanite culture, which is mostly depicted in the Ugaritic text, you'll see particular rituals that was performed with boiling a kid in his mother's milk, right? That the Israelites was told not to do that because it was part of the Canaanite practices. If you want more information on that, Yakal, go to the Patreon. I have like 4 articles on that to give you more insight. Do a search for it in the search field on Patreon, and you will get your answer. Okay, my brother? All right. Anytime. All right. No problem, King. All right. So let me bring on I Am Zeus real quick before I close out. I don't know. You have 2. Which one are you using? I'm not sure. Speak from the one that you're using, brother. That one? Okay, let me get this one out of here. All right. Shalom, sis. Beloved Ty. Shalom, sis. All right, brother. How can I help you? My brother Zeus. What you got?
So just real quick, I had a question about John chapter 4, verse 24.
You said John 10, brother?
John chapter 4, verse 24.
Oh, John 4. Yeah, something that I'm very familiar with. All right, John 4:24. Let me bring it up on the screen.
Can you read it in the KJV? Because that's what I'm familiar with.
Yeah, I got you, King. No problem. Hold on one second. All right, let's go to KJV. Whoops. I don't know what that error was. KJV. All right, 4:24. All right, and it says, God is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth.
Right. So my question would be about this verse. What is it referring to? The spirit and in truth. So my opinion would be the spirit referring to is Christ, like having the faith in Christ. And the truth would be Psalms chapter 119, verse 142, where it's speaking about the law. So I see a faith and a work in this verse. Would you agree or disagree with that?
Yeah, I would say that that definitely can add to the depth to what this passage is speaking about. In the context, right? It has to do with worship, right? So let me get that real quick. Let me go back to it real quick. Where is the passage? Right here. Okay. Right. So if you go up top, right, there's a conversation about worshiping in this mountain. So worship is is inextricably tied to God being a spirit and they that worship him. That's the key word. The doxology, the method in which one worships God. So we have to understand what worshiping means. Now, let me start up to verse 20. It says, our fathers worshipped in this mountain. Let's go into that. We can go into the text and see what choice of words is used for worship. Prose kinesan. Proske kinesan, right? Is the word we get for worship. And if you parse it out, it's an aorist, which is a simple past event, right? Past tense. It's indicative, obviously speaking about something in particular, and it's an active voice, right? Third person plural based on the suffix or the declension of the inflection of the verb, right? So once we understand what this means, then this is tied inextricably to God being a spirit and being able to identify with his spirit, with our spirit or some form of spirit and truth, right? That is true worship, right? So in the context is here, it's saying, our fathers worshipped in this mountain, and ye say that in Jerusalem is the place where men ought to worship, right? Where they're able to come together. Matter of fact, let's deep dive into worship real quick. Let me deep dive into this real quick. Let's pull up our word. Let's go into our lexicon, right? So here we have one entry, which is to kiss the hand toward one, to pay homage towards, similar to what we see in Psalm chapter 2, right? To fall upon the knees and touch the ground with the spirit. I'm assuming with the forehead. Wow, I said spirit. With the forehead, by kneeling or prostration to do homage to one or make obeisance, right? Whether in order to express respect or to make supplication, right? So he has here of homage shown to men of superior rank, which God or the Father or the Most High is considered the king over Israel. He's the king of kings. So how do you show homage, express respect when you're coming before the deity? Now, there's physical gestures that's done, prostration, kneeling down, etc., right? And it gets here how the Jewish high priests are spoken of by Josephus in his works, and Matthew actually touches on that. Then we have usages elsewhere in Acts chapter 10, verse 25, and then other places as well. So I don't take that verse in isolation. I look at the verb in question. I researched the verb in question. I understand its application, and I understand the gamut or spectrum of semantical applications that it can have. That means the various ways it can mean in different passages. And I see where that weight falls on within the context of John.
I got you.
Oh, sorry. Can y'all hear me? I'm muted. Can y'all hear me now? Hit 1 if you can hear me. Wow, I was in the zone. How long was it muted? This is crazy. Yo. Oh, man. I don't know how long that was muted. Can you hear me? I am Zeus.
I can now. You were muted for a long time.
Wow. I was really going in, man. I wasn't even looking at the chat. I was just in the zone. All right, let me see. Yeah, let me see if I can. And I saw my wife calling me. She probably telling me the same thing. Let me see if I can narrow it down to what I said, because I said a lot, but it's in regards to how I exegete the passage, right? So I have maybe about 10 minutes to do it. So let me go back over what I said, right? And again, I know exactly what I said. Let me go back and take it from the top. So what I'm saying is, in order to properly exegete John chapter 4 and verse 24, right? And just so you know, my brother, I teach classes on how to do this type of exegesis. It's on my Patreon. If you're interested, let me know. I can definitely give you like the introductory class so you can kind of see what it's about before you fully engage and commit to it. But these are the type of techniques that I teach based on what I've learned from my walk as well as in academia, etc. Right. So the first thing I do is I identify the subject of the conversation. Right. The subject of the conversation is worship. Okay. Verse 20, our fathers worshipped in this mountain, and ye say that in Jerusalem is the place where men ought to worship. I went into worship and I broke down what worship meant. Let me go into worship. Prose kinesan. Prosekeneson, right, is worship. It's an AR's tense, a simple past action, indicative, because it's indicating something in particular, and it's in the active voice, third person, plural, based on the inflection of the verb. Worship is the key point of conversation in regards to her dialogue with Yeshua. Worship. So once we see what worship is, it will give us further insight into this conversation. So when we go into worship, we jump down and we read, we see that it literally means pros, which means to motion forward, and kuneo, which means to kiss. To motion forward and kiss something, to bow before somebody, right? To pay homage to, right? To kiss the hand toward one, to fall upon the knees and touch the ground with the forehead, kneeling or prostration to do homage to one or make obeisance. And we see some elements of that in Matthew 20, Acts 10 and 25. And it says here, similar to the Jewish high priests, because they have a superior rank over the laymen, right? The key factor is worship here, right? She is making worship locative. She's saying that the worship is to be formed at Mount Zion in Jerusalem. That's where worship is to be done. So she is being very linear and saying this is where worship happens. Remember, prior to this, she said, I perceived you to be a prophet. So she perceives him to be a prophet. And now she's sharing information with him, saying our ancestors worshipped in this mountain, and ye say that in Jerusalem is a place where men ought to worship. So she is being very locative. If we go to Micah chapter 4, in verse 1, but in the last days it shall come to pass that the mountain of the house of the Lord shall be established in the top of the mountains. Why? According to mountaintop theology, the deities resided on the top of the mountains. That's why Moses had to go to Mount Sinai, and he had to go through the lowest layer of clouds to enter the top to convene with the deity, because the text says that's where they saw the God of Israel, on the mountaintop. That's what's believed that the deities resided. If you look at Mount Safan, that's what Baal is supposed to have resided on, right? So these deities rule from mountaintops. Sinai is where Yahweh was from, and Yahweh beckoned Moses to come up to the mountain to convene with him and give him a theocratic paradigm to govern the nation, right? So with that being said, the text goes on to say, it shall be exalted above the hills and people shall flow to it. So the worship is coming to this Mount Zion and bowing down, putting your head towards prostration, showing homage and respect, giving offerings as a lesser client to a patron, right? As many nations shall come and say, come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Israel, and he will teach us of his ways, and will walk in his paths, for the law shall go forth of Zion, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. Right? So it's believed that the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and then patriarchs after them, such as David and others, that Mount Zion, or the mountaintop, right, is the house of where the deity resides at. That's where he settled upon during the reign of David in Zion. Prior to that, it was all around. Tabernacle moved everywhere, right? And the places where the patriarchs had encountered the deity, they would put a standing stone or something like that to remember their encounter with the deity. So understanding that, she's localizing worship to where you can interface with the deity. And Yeshua is pushing back on that, right? Because she's thinking carnal, physical. He's pushing back on that, right? So if we go back to John chapter 4, and then in verse 21, Yeshua responds to her and says, woman, believe me, the hour cometh when ye shall neither in this mountain nor yet at Jerusalem worship the Father. Do obeisance to the Father. Pay homage to the Father, right? Give offerings to the Father. Why? Because the temple will be destroyed and that region will be trotted out by the Gentiles. She's missing it. And this was a huge conundrum for the Jews when the temple was destroyed. So they had to come up ways to give an offering to Yah, and that became prayer, and it became a supplication. If you read this book, it'll give you some great insight on that subject matter, right, of prayer, right, and how it became a substitute for sacrifice, right? So worshiping involves a lot of things: the invocation of the deity, providing gifts or offerings to the deity, hearing what the deity says, agreeing or contracting with the deity, and then you following through with that, right? So that you can continue to enjoy the deity's provision, protection, and presence, right? So again, this is about worship. That is the verb that is in question, and that is what the discussion is based off of, right? So going back to the passage of the conversation, right? And verse 22, he then says, ye worship, ye know not what. We know what we worship, for salvation is of the Jews. Again, this is to show a juxtaposition between the Samaritans and the Jews, right? The Samaritans were believed to be hybrid Jews, whereas those in the south were full-blooded Jews. All right. So he's saying you're still thinking that the worship is to be done in a localized place. He said that's not the case. The salvation that's coming forth that y'all need to see is of the Jews. When he says of the Jews, he's referring to the tribe of Judah in which he comes from, right? This is where the salvation is coming from. Not on that mountaintop that you think it is, but from the Jews, because it's of the Jews. And it's because of the Jews, the line of Judah, that salvation is coming forth, because David, being the king of Israel and Judah, when they were united, through his lineage, promises and covenants were given to the people through his lineage. So salvation can only come back through that line, hence why we have his genealogy in Matthew chapter 1 and Luke chapter 3, going back to David, because that's where the salvation is coming through, from the tribe of Judah to all of Israel, including the Samaritans, not at a physical locative place. Verse 23, but the hour cometh, and now is, when the true worshipers, that's the key, shall worship the Father in spirit and in truth, for the Father seeketh such to worship him. If God is a spirit, you can only worship a spirit with a spirit. And the only way that can happen is not in a physical locative location with a particular customary practice of bowing down, paying homage, giving offerings, and so forth. But there's something else inside of you that you have to give to the deity. That's what the deity seeks. We see that in Psalm chapter 51. David, in his time in the Iron Age period, understood this, right? So it says here in Psalms 51, let me go to Psalms 51 real quick, right? Psalms 51, right? He says, restore unto me the joy of my salvation and uphold me with thy free spirit. Then I will teach the transgressors thy ways, and sinners shall be converted unto thee. Join that verse 15. He says, O Lord, open thou my lips, and my mouth shall show forth thy praise, for thou desirest not sacrifice, else I would give it. Thou delightest not in a burnt offering, but what? The sacrifices of God are what? A broken spirit. So David already understood that the only way that he can repent and give true worship to the deity is not through sacrifice, it's through a broken spirit. He understood that the spirit is necessary. Your spirit that's in you is necessary to give worship to the deity. However, not just your spirit, but also his spirit. Verse 11, cast not me not away from thy presence, and take not thy Holy Spirit. So that Holy Spirit connects with his spirit, the thing, the breath that was breathed into him to give him life, that animates man. That spirit that's active, that has to work in conjunction with the set apart spirit that Yah gives to those who are true worshipers. And it's with that that one can then worship the Father, can truly humble yourself, truly give obeisance, truly take a knee and prostrate. If your flesh is doing it, that's one thing. When your spirit is doing it, that's something totally different. And Yeshua came to show that to them, because he came to tell them that that temple and that hill and all of that, that's going to be destroyed, trodden down. You're going to be exiled. So you need to learn the etiquette of how to worship now and know who the salvation of this comes. So he's addressing the worship and he's addressing the messiahship. Both things that's come into conversation here. So the truth is what he is saying to her, what true worship is. That's the truth. And that can only be done with the spirit. And that's the only way the Father is going to accept true worship, and not in a locative state, not in a carnal, physical state of actions, of rituals, but that of the spirit. And that can only be done according to Torah in Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 16, when there's a circumcision of the heart. When the heart is circumcised, then one can truly no longer be stiff-necked and hard-headed, and he can then surrender his spirit and his soul to give praise to the deity and to be open to be filled with that spirit, so that connection can be there. And in truth of understanding this, he can continuously worship the Father outside of Jerusalem and outside the holy hill of Zion. Are you there, brother? I don't know if he's still there. Oh, he dropped. All right. Well, hopefully y'all heard me now. Did y'all hear what I shared? I don't know if y'all can still hear me. Can y'all still hear me? Hit one if you can still hear me. I don't know if y'all can still hear me. Hit one. I'm about to close out now. I know we lost the brother. I see he came right back. I'm gonna give him a minute to respond and share whatever commentary he'd like, and I'm gonna close out. One, y'all can hear me? Okay, cool. All right, here you go, Zeus. There you go, brother.
Oh,
I'm gonna
I
give
got
you the last minute to close out.
Okay, well, definitely, I had follow-up questions about it, but like I said, we'll have that conversation another time. But I guess the reason why I would be asking that question, because when I read that verse, it was like I see a faith and a work. The faith being the spirit, like as in Christ, right? And then the work being the truth, referring to, like I said, Psalms 119, 142. And that reminded me of what it said in the previous chapter of John chapter 3, when it speaks of being born of the water and of the spirit. So in John 4, we see spirit and truth. And in John 3, we see spirit and water. And I was going to ask you if, if the water in that context would be also the law and the spirit be Christ.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, Paul says we're washed by the water of the word, right? So water has different typologies in the New Testament. I would actually, again, try to first understand the passage linguistically, then the overall context, and then try to stay in the book of John to see if there's anything else in the book of John, the epistles of John, or in Revelation, right? Because these are all written by the same author, so the language will be very similar, to see if I can get more in-depth information about that. Now, I keep the law, right? I'm a law keeper. I'm zealous for the law, and I accept Yeshua as the Messiah, right? These are things that I do based on my search and truth, right? Here in John chapter 4, I'm not disqualifying any of that. Obviously, Jesus didn't come to break the law. Yeshua, Hawashai didn't come to destroy the law. He came to fulfill it. He came to bring it up front so everybody can see how it's to be done, right? Void of traditions, void of man's hands involved, right? He showed us how to do it. He was the prime example, right? So obviously, if you're not, if your worship, which is done with spirit, is not reflected in your obedience, then you're not truly worshiping. And if he's given us the law to keep forever, then that must be demonstrated in our life day to day to showcase that we are true worshipers. And we're not limited to just one locale of worship. Let me give two more scriptures to showcase that, right? Deuteronomy chapter 32, right? And again, brother, you can always hit the link and set up a consultation. We could talk further about this if you like, okay? I always make that
Yes, sir.
available for the public. You know, you can do it anytime, right? So here in Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 9, it says, "For Yah's portion is his people. Jacob is the lot of his inheritance." The other deities in verse 8, they are bounded by land, territories, peoples, right? So the way they can covenant with peoples is based on territory, land, a physical location. But Yah decided not to choose a physical location, but to choose a people for his inheritance, not a land. So when somebody thinks that that's the only way you can connect to the deity, then they're missing how to truly worship him, right? They think it's in a physical place that you can be exile of, which Yah did. He caused Israel to be exiled. How do you worship him now in exile if there's no land? If you're not about Mount Zion or Jerusalem, how do you then worship him? Yeshua was prepping people how to do the worship, right? And if he says salvation is of the Jews kept the law. That was an outward sign of their inward worship, right? And I think the word worship has been tainted a lot by pop culture and Christianity. And when I do my lecture, I'm really going to set the stage for what true worship actually is, right? Like from historically to now, you always have to give an offering. You have to offer something to the deity. Most people are coming to the deity with their hands empty, and he's a king. You invoke his presence, but you appear to him empty-handed. Doesn't work like that, especially if you're not doing the things that he already decreed that you should do. You're not even doing that. You also come into him empty-handed, right? So here he chose a people as his inheritance, not a land. The land is a byproduct of his covenant with the people. But when the people are disobedient, he dispels them out the land. So now what happens when we're outside the land? Well, when we go to Ezekiel, let's go to Ezekiel real quick. Let me end off with this. In Ezekiel chapter 11, right? Let's go down here, right here. And it says in verse 16, he says, "Therefore, saith the Lord God, although I have cast them far off among the heathen, and although I have scattered them among the countries, yet will I be to them as a little sanctuary in the countries where they shall come." So to truly worship the Most High Yah, the Father, you have to do it with your spirit, because that is what the Father is seeking from us. And the truth of the matter would be explicit in our obedience as a result of the fruit of our worship. And what happens is, because a lot of people are not bearing fruit of their true worship, which should be shown in your works, in your obedience, as it says in the book of James, it shows that they're not truly worshiping the Father, or maybe they don't understand how to worship the Father, right? So I try to take it within its immediate context, and then same author context, and then things that allude to things that's in the discussion, such as our fathers worship on this mountain. Showcase that from the Tanakh, where fathers did go and worship on the mountain. Like I could pull up Moses, I could pull up David, right? Show how they worship on the mountain physically. But those who actually had their heart circumcised understood that they needed the set apart spirit to conjoin with their spirit that's only on loan to them in order to truly worship the Father, to really surrender yourself, to give true obeisance or homage to the Father, and to do so in truth, understanding that this is how you truly worship, and show the fruit of that worship through your works. That's how it's produced. So what you're saying contributes to the understanding of John chapter 4. When I get to John chapter 5, that'll be another conversation. All of it is linked together because it was written as one book, no dividers, right? But in that immediate context, that's how I see the intention of that conversation in verse 24 is based on how worship is localized in the Samaritan's mind. But the salvation coming from the Jews and those who are true worshipers, who the Father is going to seek and look for, they have to do it in spirit and in truth. All right. So thank you for your time, my brother. I appreciate you. Look forward to having you on again. And again, if you want a one-on-one, please click the link below and I'll be more than happy to speak with you. Okay.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Anytime, King. Shalom. All right, yo, I'm gonna close out. Hopefully you'll enjoy that. I'm sorry for that. You said 6 minutes. Man, hopefully I made up for those 6 minutes. And I was able to regurgitate what I said previously. I'll put a time mark on there so that whoever's watching this on a replay can skip over that silence, right? But that was an excellent question that he asked. And I think that the problem is a lot of people don't have the tools, methods, or approach necessary to truly understand that context. And when you see that the word worship is in the indicative, meaning that that is the thing you should focus on in the context of the conversation. Worship. That's what the conversation is about, up to verse 24. And then some messiahship sprinkled in there, because that was also a byproduct of the conversation, right? It actually started with Messiah and a prophet, but it went to true worship. And she thought it was localized. And yes, it was showing her, no, it's spirit. It's not local. It's in the spirit, right? So hopefully that's blessed someone. I pray that y'all got something from that. All praise to the Most High. Thank you all for your support. Please thumbs up the video if you enjoyed it. Share the video on all social media platforms so more people can enjoy in this objective information as well. Again, if you're not in class, sign up for the class, www.patreon.com/DivineProspect, and we will show you step by step how we do this grammatical lexical approach, this contextual approach, this intertextual approach, this comparative textual approach, this academic approach, this evidential approach. We'll show you all of that in our classes so that you can derive an objective understanding of what the passage is saying and be able to aptly apply it to your life to yield the results that was intended by the original author to his immediate audience. All right. Love you, family. See you next time. Peace and shalom.